I'm Chenzira Davis-Kahina, and I'm going to be sharing some of my work in regard to the Bamboula from the perspective of being the co-founding Ankh Collaborative developer, founder, if you will, of Parent Ankh Communiversity Institute, which is dedicated to culture, healing, arts, technology, and spirituality for life, inspiration, freedom, and education, chats for life. And the reason I start there is primarily because as a director within Parent Ankh Communiversity Institute, the Bamboula tradition, the whole restoration component of the Bamboula here in the Virgin Islands, it's focused originally on St. Croix and the traditions of communication, of dance, of theater, of music, of song in that regard. And then it expanded to what were the traditions sustained, maintained, kept in place historically in St. Thomas as well as St. John. And through that research, I was able to identify that the Bamboula may have had different names, but the reference of having a dance of resistance, a dance that was banned because of its very African foundations and roots, it was all over the Caribbean. As a matter of fact, we found it even in the southern parts of the United States. We found it in certain parts of Central and South America in regard to the dance step style, the same all-white attire, and many of the head ties, the connections to the enslavement experience, but the connections to the empowering experiences and the resilience and the endurance of enslaved Africans in the Western Hemisphere. So when we speak of the historical foundations of the Bamboula, I want to quantify that and speak of the restoration of Bamboula in St. Croix. And it was an actual project that I started to do research on about 20 plus years ago to really look into what was it that we were seeing that were so similar in these dance step styles. What was this waving of the skirts? What was the significance of women doing these different sensual dances? Some persons took it to a more sexual engagement, but the older persons, when you started to do the research on a historical construct, I should say, it was connected to communicating, whether it was around initiation, whether it was around naming ceremonies, whether it was around marriage, whether it was around coming of age, whether it was around death, whether it was around resistance. And so we started to go forward, I should say, into history and begin to look at what were the names. For example, we know of Bamboula as bomba, very similar type of dance step style with a more staccato, quote unquote, Afro-Latino rhythm in its foundation. But bomba is that same dance of resistance, that same communicative kind of art form between the drummer, the dancer, and spirit. We also saw, like in Haiti, there was what they call tambula. Very similar, again, all white, usually connected to the spiritual system. Some people call Vodun, which is all about just spirit, not an obia, negative, anything, but just about spirit. And invoking that which brings greatness and goodness through the dance and making it a communicative art, again, between the drummer communicating with the dancer communicating with the drummer, and then the songs about resistance and upliftment and liberation and freeness, not just freedom, but freeness. So that's a portion of the historical aspect of the Bamboula, and just knowing it as not only a dance, not only a song, not only music, but a form of communication that really is ancestral and grounded in the African tradition.